Another one, huh? Another myth. Right? Another myth? That's where we're going. Good evening. We're going to explore another myth of Plato's, the Phaedrus. We've gone through the Phaedo, the Phaedrus, the Republic, and now we're into the Phaedrus. Phaedrus is very interesting because it combines vision of the afterworld in terms of the journey of the soul in respect to the upper world rather than the lower world. And it includes the function of this world, and therefore it's very significant. So we should then get a view of what it's like on two levels, because this is the journey of the soul. Let me get a piece of chalk here. So everything that is said in terms of the journey of the soul after death is equally applicable to mystical states on earth. So it's a map, which is what we've discussed before. Therefore, the theme has a double meaning. The journey of the soul after death. And we understand the idea of after death in Plato to be that interesting state of death where the separation of the soul can take place while you're still living. Therefore, the question becomes in Plato, if he defines death as the separation of the soul from the body now as well as hereafter, what kind of a journey of the soul is it? What does it encounter and what is it like? So we can take, therefore, the journey of the soul on those double meanings, after final death and the philosophical dying. Because remember what he calls the separation of the soul from the body, he calls that true philosophy. For true philosophy is nothing other than dying, the practice of death. And that is what death is, the separation of the soul from the body. So then, he adds some theme here that he really goes into, unfolds in a very interesting level, what he calls the fourth kind of madness. Madness. That plays a major role in the entire myth, the entire Phaedrus, because the background theme of the Phaedrus, as undoubtedly you know, is that his friend Phaedrus is being persuaded by Lysias that when you have to make a choice between two types of people for your beloved, it's best to choose the non-lover rather than the lover, because the person who is not in love with you, therefore, can handle things very efficiently, and they're not involved emotionally, and they're a great advantage, therefore, in being indifferent to those that you love. Socrates gets upset about this, and he says, this is terrible, because love is a madness. Love is a madness. Love inspires a madness. So the whole dialogue, therefore, is about madness. So, I have a very interesting quote I'd like to share with you. The greatest blessings comes to us through madness. And when it is sent as a gift of the gods. And when it's sent as a gift for the gods, it is for our greatest happiness. This, of course, is Plato, 245c in the Phaedrus, as all of this is from 245 on. Then he makes a very clever distinctions. He says all of these are madnesses. These are madnesses, you see. Prophecy is a madness. Oracular power is a madness. And the muses have a madness. Three kinds of madness. And the fourth is philosophy. They're mad. They're all mad. Now, prophecy, to function right, there's a madness that takes over, sent by the gods as a gift. And prophecy, therefore, makes men fortunate afterwards. After the prophecy is revealed, time then allows men to adjust to a forthcoming event, and therefore it makes them fortunate if they understand and can relate to that prophecy. Oracular power, That's very good, he said. It keeps you safe for the present and in the future. Oracular power is a particular kind of function. It says whenever you encounter people whose whole families seem to carry along either a particular kind of disease or fate, negative fate, he said, then you need oracular power to break through that and then reverse it. We would call that some kind of therapy in today's world. That keeps you safe for the present and the future, but that requires, however, a certain kind of payment. Means, therefore, a person who is then relieved of that must then offer their prayers to the gods and be in service to the gods from that point on. The muses, that's another kind of madness. He says, true muse is mad. Homer and Hesiod, they're mad. He says, when anyone tries to become a great poet without divine madness, he said, they're rational and never makes money. I mean, it's very clever and it's very nice, but it doesn't inspire and it doesn't illuminate. Therefore, the muses, too, have a kind of madness, and that educates later generations. Then he pulls it together and he says, prophecy is to augury. Augury, by the way, is when you're using rational science to predict the future. Rolling coins, Chinese coins, or dropping the tarot sticks, all of these procedures are augury, where you're trying to find some correspondence between this world and what portends for the future by looking at signs. Oh, there goes a bird. Oh, it's a sign. That's looking at visible things in the hopes that you can understand future events through them. That's augury. So augury is a particular kind of practical kind of rational prophecy. So he says, therefore, prophecy is to augury, as madness from the gods is to sanity of human origin, because the people who function in that way have to be very rational, they have to be able to look up the Book of Changes, they have to know it, they have to be able to relate to it. He said it's a kind of sanity. And he says, but the greatest of all madnesses here, he says, of the three is prophecy. You know, the fourth kind of madness, which is philosophy. Right? Platonic philosophy is mad. What? No, you're going to... Now look, he says, to talk about this fourth kind of madness, he said, you have to understand the soul. Now, for Plato, the idea of soul has two aspects. Soul, divine soul, or soul taken in general. Now, why does he do that? Look here. Wherever you see evidence of order, balance, symmetry, right, and especially developed patterns, that's signs of intelligibility breaking through, signs of intelligibility breaking through. But these are also the four primary categories, as you undoubtedly know, of the presence of beauty. These are aesthetic principles. Now, would you not agree you can look out in the heavens and you can see a vast order? You can go to the subatomic world and be startled by the supersymmetry of the subatomic world. We're facing nothing today other than more